Here's the truth. Your very first offer probably won't win you the property. And that's okay. It's not failure, it's just part of the process.
Missing out doesn't mean you'll never buy a home. It means you're learning, and each rejection teaches you how agents play the game, how sellers think, and how to sharpen your strategy.
So instead of panicking, see it as training. You're building the skills that will help you secure the right home without overpaying. Welcome to Your First Home Buyer Guide, the podcast for first home buyers who want to feel confident, smart and totally in control of their property journey.
I'm Veronica and that was Meighan, and yes, we're probably old enough to be your mums, which is a good thing because between us we've got decades of experience and we've got your back every step of the way. Our mission, to cut through the BS, keep it real and make sure you're buying smarter, not stressing harder.
Quick heads up, we've created the First Home Buyer course, our step-by-step program to help you buy your first place with confidence and without the costly mistakes. The link's in the show notes, but stick with us first. You'll want to hear this episode.
Today we're diving into one of the biggest emotional roller coasters you'll face as a first home buyer, putting in your very first offer. This is a small part of Step 9, which is in our 10-step PACE program. And PACE stands for Preparation, Action, Commitment and Execution. Step 9 is all about negotiation and auction, right? So that's really what we're focusing in on today.
Now, most of us dream of that ideal ending where you make an offer, it's accepted, and boom, you've got the keys. Easy peasy. But the truth is, for the majority of buyers, that very first offer probably isn't going to win you the property. And you know what? It's not a bad thing.
Well, I know life will be easy if you just go make one offer and then, yay, but it's not that way.
It could be that you paid too much if you got it the first time and you didn't really know what you were doing. So
exactly right. And we want to help you reframe the experience of rejection in property, in your property journey, because here's the thing. Missing out is part of the process, right? It doesn't mean that failing, it doesn't mean that you'll never get a home. It certainly doesn't mean that you should throw up your hands in despair. In fact, losing out can actually sharpen your skills and make you a lot smarter, much more strategic buyer and ready for your next opportunity.
Yeah, I really like that because let's be honest, the first time you find a property you love, you get emotionally involved. Your heart gets involved, your head gets involved. You're imagining barbecues on the balcony, your dog running around, maybe where you put the sofa. I always say when I'm standing at an auction, I can see which couples have unpacked and moved in already at the auction. Yes, you can read their body language. And then, you go to submit your offer or attend your first auction and boom, it's like a massive rejection, punch in the stomach. And there's a real perspective shift that you can make here. This is where the learning can really begin because every knockback is feedback that helps you become a little bit savvier as a buyer.
That's exactly right. So millennials and Gen Z now who are starting to enter the property market, they often feel like the market is stacked against them and that the first no can sting even harder, right? You're just thinking, well, this is it. It's set up against us. The baby boomers stole everything from us. We're never going to get into the market. But the reality is it is tough, right? And it's really unusual that your first offer is ever going to buy a property anyway, okay? So we want you to see it as a reality check, not a dead end. You've now had a front row seat to how offers are handled, but we will remind you, and this is something we teach you in the course, they're not always handled the same way by different agents, right? But you will get a sense for the way one agent has handled it, how competitive the market can be, what sellers and agents are really responding to. So it's not just rejection. It's not just losing. It's education.
Yeah, it's good market education. So let's break down why that first offer sometimes doesn't really get across the line. And the first reason is you're still testing the waters. Most first home buyers underestimate how much competition there is, or they overestimate how much power they hold in the negotiation. Now, sellers, on the other hand, are motivated to squeeze every last cent out of the deal. And their agent's job, remember, home buying principle number one is real estate agents don't represent you. You have to understand that they legally represent the seller. Their job's to get the highest price and to work on the seller's behalf to do that. Okay, so never, ever forget that. So their job, often, there's a mismatch between what your motivations are and what their motivations are. And that sometimes means your first attempt just isn't strong enough.
And something else to think about is that you don't yet have the rhythm of the process. We're buyer's agents. We know how it all works. We get it. We know how to move to it. We know how to ebb and flow with it. We know how to push. We know when not to push. And, we've used this metaphor before with Homebuyer Academy. It's a bit like climbing a mountain, right? You've never done it before. It's going to feel like hard work. Every single step is going to feel a bit awkward. You're still finding your footing. It doesn't feel normal because the ground's not flat. Whatever, you're holding onto a rope. I don't know. None of this stuff is natural, right? And you're not really quite sure how steep it's going to be ahead of you. And it seems easy at the beginning, perhaps, but by the time you've climbed a little bit higher, you've learned how to pace yourself, how to use the right handholds, how to adjust when the terrain changes. And anything difficult in life, anything worth doing, buying property is the same. Your first offer is often the warm-up climb, getting you to base camp maybe, but not the summit.
We have always used that analogy with Homebuyer Academy, haven't we? It's like climbing a mountain. You don't just get out there and do it. You've actually learned how to do it. But here's where things start to get a little bit better for you. When you miss out, you start paying a bit closer attention to the little details. You'll notice what price points certain suburbs are actually selling at, how long properties are lasting on the market, and which agents are more likely to play hardball, and which ones actually might help you a little bit to give you the information that you need, as long as you're prepared to listen and process that information. That level of awareness, it only sharpens up your ability to negotiate better next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, once you've been through it a few times, I hate to say this, your first offer probably won't get accepted. Maybe not numbers 2 or 3 either, but you do start to develop buyer's intuition. Suddenly you're not second guessing whether a property is overpriced or worrying about whether you're being pushed around by an agent. You sort of got the confidence that does come from having seen the game played out before. So rejection can turn into resilience, which is a powerful shift, and it does actually give you much more confidence as you move forward as well.
Yeah, look, we just had a purchase that I just put together this morning for a client in Brisbane. Look, they're not first-home buyers traditionally. They're a bit older, but the first investment property that they were buying, and they hadn't bought a property for a long time. So coaching them through the journey and the process was really interesting. But the agent that I was dealing with has a vastly different way of interacting than other agents, even in his own office. So it was actually knowing and having done a few, negotiations and conversations with him that let me be in a stronger position than the other buyers. There was 5 offers on the property, and we got across the line at the same money but slightly sharper conditions. So it's just, you will develop and learn and understand the knowledge that the agents have and how to work with that to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So how do you bounce back after you lose out, Veronica? First, what do you do?
Feel the feelings.
It's normal. It's okay. Express your frustration. Go and throw a tennis ball against the wall. I don't know. What do you do? Throw an axe these days? There's plenty of places to do that.
In a safe environment, please.
Yes. There's actual places that you can do that.
In an axe throwing facility.
But then, pull yourself together. You can reflect then on what you've learned. Was your offer realistic compared to recent sales? Did you actually do your recent sales analysis, comparable sales analysis? Did you follow the process? Or maybe did you reveal too much about your budget? Maybe you held back when it was actually the time to go really strong. Each time you learn more, there's more clues about how to adjust your strategy for next time and different tactics to have available for each negotiation.
There's a lot of naivety often in that first offer as well, and look, not our students, of course. Our students are savvy about this, right? Our students are better at understanding the process and how not to fall into the obvious traps. And one of the obvious traps is, they've got a price guide of, 550 to 600,000. Well, I'm just going to offer 575 because it's halfway in the middle. You go, but what's it worth? Maybe that is the price. There's a good chance it's not if that's your reasoning for settling on that price. So there's a lot of naivety, and they're like, well, that should be reasonable. And they're trying to sort of understand why the price was set the way it is, but they don't actually understand enough about the market. They don't understand enough about the real property, its value. They don't understand enough about that agent. So they're coming at it with this sense of logic, but it's illogical in the context of the market. So there's a lot of naivety, and we're here to prevent you, if you become a student of ours, from falling into that trap. But it still doesn't mean you're not going to fail. It just means you're going to have a different attitude to failing, and it also means you're going to increase your chances of success. But bouncing back really is about keeping momentum, and too many buyers take rejection personally and drop out for months, only to come back later feeling even more behind, particularly if the market's moving. So you don't really have time to sort of go away and lick your wounds and recover and then finally sort of gather enough confidence and gumption to get back out there again. You really have to stick with it. And that can be really hard because you're feeling demoralized and you're thinking, this is never going to happen. The odds are stacked against me. You've really got to get your mind out of that, right? The truth is that the buyers who succeed are the ones who keep showing up. They're armed with sharper knowledge each round. And in our course, we actually map out step-by-step ways to review performance even after each attempt. So you're not just spinning your wheels, you're actually improving. When people come to Campfire on a weekly basis, we do a campfire with our students every Wednesday. And when they come to Campfire, we give them tactics and we give them backup and make sure they check their pricing analysis, all that sort of stuff. So they're ready to make the offer or ready to go to auction. And we know that they're not always going to make it. Somebody else will have more money or somebody else will pay more than they're prepared to pay. Even though they've got more money, it's just they're not prepared to pay that for that particular property for good reasons. And they are going to come back and we do debrief and we want to learn what could be improved. How can we learn from that and actually build and have a better outcome next time?
You and I do that in our businesses too, Veronica. We will come back. I know you do it with your team. I do it with my team. After you've missed out on a property or an auction, even if it's successful, we debrief on it within the team because we want to see what we could learn or do differently or what we might have missed or what tactic didn't work. Or was it just purely that someone else had so much more money and it didn't matter to them where value actually sat? So debriefing is really important, even if it's just with yourself or it's with us in Campfire.
100%. I mean, we do, exactly. We debrief those successful purchases and the ones that didn't go ahead and why. Absolutely so valuable. And I think about all the little iterations in our businesses and why we are as good as we are. This is all part and parcel of it. So you've got to go away and think, how can I improve each time?
Yeah. Now, you mentioned it earlier, Veronica. I just want to expand on a little bit. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough, and it is the persistence. It's often the biggest factor that separates successful first home buyers from those who give up and they give in to the market. Property buying isn't about instant wins. It's about building almost like a stamina to keep at it until you find the right home, but then can buy it at the right price. You could think of it like dating. I tend not to because I'm in the dating world and it's not a fun place to be for me at the moment. But, the first person you go out with probably isn't the one, but each date you get a bit clearer on what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah, you got to kiss a few frogs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's true, though. I mean, the good thing about property, you can have more than one at a time if you're doing really well in life.
Yeah, I've gone so off track here.
Way off track. But, you think about it, a failed relationship, you got to lick your wounds after that and get back on the bike at some point too, don't you? You probably have to spend a little bit more time between dates than you should between properties that you're going for. Like once you're in the property market and you got that momentum going, you really do want to keep on it. And it is that persistence that pays off because you do build confidence with every step, right? And by the time you actually secure your home, you will look back and realize that those earlier rejections were actually stepping stones. It's really interesting, and it could just be confirmation bias, but definitely in my business, I've never had a client say, I really wish I bought another house, I'm really glad I bought the
they're
one I
always
bought.
happy with the one they end up with. Yeah,
and you do learn along the way as well. And also, sometimes properties that you didn't get, and then you see something subsequent and you think, oh my God, this is, and I don't believe in the universe has all these reasons, but some people like to say that the universe wanted me to miss out on that because this one's even better. As long as you are looking for the right property in the right price in the right location, and that comes back to our Where to Buy tutorial, which is part of our course that teaches you to be looking with all those elements in place. As long as you are looking with a realistic approach, then you are going to find the right property at the right price, right? So these stepping stones, they toughen you up, they teach you how the game works, and they mean that when that right property does come along, you are going to be able to pounce with confidence. And so when you think about some of the people that do move fast and decisively, some do it because they like to rush. It's in their personality. There's people that do, what fools rush in where angels fear to tread. And there are other people who have gone through this process and they're really, really super clear. So when they rush, it's because they know and they know exactly what they're doing. And that's the confidence that we like to build with our students, because losing early can often upset you up to win later.
Yeah. Now, there are some things that you don't want to do after you miss out. Okay, so let's dive deep into that. This is a big one to avoid. Don't spiral into desperation. Some buyers miss out once or twice and then decide, okay, next time I'll just throw every cent at it. I don't care. I'll pay every dollar that I've got, regardless of what it's worth. I'm not going to lose again. Now, what's really dangerous about this is you risk overpaying or buying the wrong property out of panic. Remember, this is about a really long game. It's not about just winning the property. Avoid getting into that desperation, anything at any price. I've seen people do it, and I almost want to sort of wrap them up and go, "Oh, come on, out of there. Let's stop me going down that path. Let's put you on a better path." But you do see it, and particularly when people miss out at an auction. We did a podcast recently, Veronica, where the couple who missed out at an auction, they'd done all of the right things, all the due diligence, all of the research on the property they missed out on, and then in desperation went straight to an auction afterwards where they'd done no due diligence. And there were huge issues with the property they ended up buying. So don't do that rebound thing.
Yep, do not. And if you want to learn about that, go back a few episodes. It's within the last 10 anyway. All right. And don't turn against the process itself, right? We often hear buyers saying the market's rigged or agents are all against us. And look, as Meighan said earlier, it's true that the agents are there for the seller, not for you. But that is not a reason to give up. That is just the market. There's just the way it works, right? If you went to play football and you ran on a soccer field and you kick the ball off the side of the field and you reckon you should get a score, no one's going to be on your side there. No one's going to say, yeah, you're right, the whole game's rigged because you kicked it wherever you wanted to and you wanted to score a point. They're going to know there's goals over there and the rules are that you kick and you get it in the goal, right? That's how you score a point. And it's a bit like the property market. So you can rant and rave, but you're just fighting against reality. So it's a reason to skill up. And that's exactly why we built the First Home Buyer course, because it's a toolkit that keeps you calm, understanding the rules and knowing what to do when, and be strategic, ready to play smart even when you've been knocked back.
Remember, I'm sure he's one of our favourite students, but Mike, who was just fighting a one-man war against the property market. And this was a very intelligent,
smart guy. He's a lawyer.
Accomplished man. Yeah, I wasn't going to put that in, but all right, we'll tell everybody. And he just was determined to beat the market. And we got to the point where we just said, Mike, you just can't beat, you've got to join the market. You can't keep fighting the market. And once he had that change in mindset and allowed himself to just understand the market and be part of the market, they bought.
Yeah, and they got a great property.
Got a great property. Would have done amazingly well for them in the 5 years since they purchased.
I know. I look back now. I actually often think about that.
You know, I'll never forget a couple that we worked with who lost out on 3 properties in a row. Now, that was before they came to us. And we were trying to talk to them about coming on as a buyer's agency client, but they were a bit reluctant. Oh, I didn't know about the fee, those sorts of things. Each time they missed out, they were gutted and they'd have another conversation with us. But instead of giving up, they sort of learned, and we gave them some coaching and took them on as what we call a property purchase partnership client, where they find the property and we help with the negotiation of purchase. What they did and what we helped them do was refine their offer strategy and nailed it. And they said the process they went through was vastly different with us than it was with the scattergun approach that they were trying to do themselves. Now, that meant that they were able to, get a great townhouse. It's done really well for them. The price was fair. It wasn't inflated, but they understood each part of the process because we were able to help and guide them through it.
Look, we've had clients too, and in Sydney in particular, the last time the market was gangbusters, and I understand it's been gangbusters in lots of other places in the country since then, but not in Sydney and not in Melbourne. We had Sydney, it was crazy. 1 month prices went up 4% in a month. Sometimes in some years you go up 4%. So it was nuts. And I remember one particular couple, they were planning on buying a home because they want to have their a first baby, and the amount of times we went to auction and got, they just missed out. They were underbidders a number of times. And we knew.
And that's with the experts.
That's where the experts. Sometimes the market is so hot that happens, right? And so it was like there were times when I was thinking, far out, what do we need to do here? This is nuts. And we know this. So we had the same feelings, thoughts that run through our head. And each time, though, what we would do with them, we'd sit down and review what we're looking for, where we're looking for it, and the budget. And they did have to revise their budget through this process. And we ended up, though, because we had been looking in other areas, we thought we'd have to make compromises. prices on the location. In the end, because they did work and they did refine their budget, we got them a house in their ideal location. I couldn't believe it. Patience, persistence, making sure we were being realistic and looking for something that was achievable. And even though the market was crazy, I mean, some people were paying insane prices, the house that they got, they absolutely love. They've got a baby now, and I get a photo of this adorable little child every now and then sitting, in the backyard. It wasn't luck that we got there, and it wasn't like we completely avoided the pain, because even though we know what we're doing, but it was the persistence and being clear and knowing that we're not searching for the wrong thing in the wrong place with the wrong budget. You know what I mean? And sticking to that. And I think that's the thing that really is important. What we do see a lot is where people are they're not looking realistically. And so, of course, every offer is going to fail, because they're actually chasing something they can't afford. And so there's always going to be somebody with more money. It's a bit like Mike. He was always chasing something. He didn't want to pay the money because he didn't want to accept the market was where it was at. Remember that?
I remember it. And I really want to go back and appraise that property. And for his own confidence and his own reassurance, say, see, Mike, the market's working for you now.
Yeah. So it can be tough. It can be tough. That's what I'm saying. It can be really tough. But, with the right framework and the right approach, you can prevail. You can get where you want to be.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about a client that we actually have at the moment who's a first home buyer, and he's had a little bit of the journey on his own, but he was referred to us by a past client, bought back for them back in 2013 or 2012, and he'd held on to this recommendation that long until he was ready to go. He's almost the opposite, Veronica. He just wants to buy anything at any price, and we're re-coaching him to be a bit more discerning and to be a little bit in the middle of a negotiation at the moment. And he's gone, just throw everything at it. Go to my maximum budget.
It's like, I'm here to protect you.
And we've had to go, whoa, let's just calm down.
We've had clients like that.
And they're lovely to deal with, but I feel like I want to protect him from his own enthusiasm.
Yep. Yeah, totally. We're very good at working with people like that. No, you can keep some of that money. I know it seems amazing for a first home buyer to even consider that is the case, but it can be.
It can be.
But anyway, you guys.
It's joyful, right? We're coaching in a different way and we're guiding in a different way. But I guess the thing is, if you've made your first offer and it didn't work out, please don't see it as failure. See it as training. Every buyer goes through it unless they were the one that threw way too much money at it to start with and was successful the first time. They don't know whether they did that well or not. And those who embrace being a learner and filling themselves with all of the right tactics and information, the right process, step by step, they actually come out much better and much stronger on the other side.
And, if you're listening, you're thinking, okay, I don't want to make all these mistakes on my own. That is exactly why we created the First Home Buyer course. It's designed to give you the playbook so that even if your first offer doesn't win, which it's highly unlikely to, you are still moving forward strategically, right? So check out the link in the show notes, because that's where you'll find everything you need to keep your momentum up.
And remember, rejection isn't the end of the road. It's just part of the journey. So stay persistent, stay smart, and your turn will come. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week. Too many first home buyers are stressing themselves out and wasting money just by doing things in the wrong order. That's why we created the First Home Buyer course, a 10-module online course with weekly mentoring, where you'll learn exactly what to do and what not to do at every stage.
So instead of drowning in Google searches and random advice, you'll feel clear, you'll feel confident, and you'll feel in control. You'll get direct access to us so you can send through properties you're considering, and we'll tell you if they're worth it. And we'll even help guide you through negotiations.
The course is $990, and honestly, it'll pay for itself, because buying without the right guidance can cost you tens of thousands more than the course itself.
Quick note, you of course know that nothing in this podcast is to be taken as personal advice. We always recommend getting the advice of an expert in their field who takes the time to understand your personal situation. We've done our very best to ensure that the content is correct at the time of recording, but things change rapidly, so always check with the relevant government authority and your trusted advisors to get the most up-to-date information.
Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to join our Facebook group. It's called Your First Home Buyer Guide Australia, and it's your opportunity to connect with us and ask us your questions, which we will answer. Meaning you can make sure that you're not getting led down the garden path. We hope to see you there soon.